Welcome back to Arkansas Basketball Recap, show that recaps every Arkansas basketball game. I'm Daniel Price. That's Jacob Price. We're here to recap the Arkansas Razorbacks 79-67 win over the Little Rock Trojans. Hey, Corliss Williamson was in the house. You know, Darrell Walker, of course, was in the house coaching the Little Rock Trojans. That's cool. We didn't used to play in-state schools ever. Now that's changed in the last few years. The girls are doing it. The boys are doing it. I think that's good. It looks weird when you're afraid of other schools in your own state. So I don't like not doing that. So Arkansas comes away with the win. You know, the first half of this game, it looked like Arkansas was going to do something they haven't really done yet, which was just blow a team out from the tip and just annihilate someone. Um, that didn't happen. You know, we end up winning by 12. It got down close to that. It never really felt like the game was in doubt or anything like that. Um, but I think that it's going to be tough to get one of those because we don't have the horses. He's got 7 guys. He doesn't get to sub the way he wants to sub. He's just subbing to keep someone out of foul trouble, or someone's got a cramp, or hey, who's played the most minutes? I got to give him a break. Like, and it's so, I don't know if we've got the guys, enough guys to do that yet. But they come away with the win against a team, that was, missing KK Robinson, but also a team that has won their conference the last, 2 of the last 4 years. A team that is picked to win their conference this year. And so, it's a win that you wanted to get over a team that's going to win some games. They're going to win games in their league. And there was some things that look great, man. It's tough because the first half, I mean, I was ready to come on here and say how it had nothing to do with like the score, really. Just that, man, the ball's moving better. Like that looks better. It wasn't sticking. It was snapping. We were, it got a little ground down. And I think guys got tired, and it didn't snap. And you're up, and you got a lot of young guys on the floor, and I think all those things came into play. But there were definitely glimpses where you're like, hey, I like the way that looks better. There was times where the offense looked better, the ball movement looked better. They got the ball into the high post. That was good. So those were the positives. The negatives are, we tend to maybe let go of the rope a little bit and let teams claw back in. That's partially fatigue, partially not enough bodies, partially youth, and partially just having to learn how to keep your your foot on the gas.
Yeah, I mean, there's good things and bad things. Again, it I kind of have deja vu when we start doing these early games, and I remember how this is at the first, until you get 10 games under your belt or get play more good teams, um, which we're about to do. We're gonna play Illinois coming up soon. That'll tell us something.
Mm.
Um, it's hard to glean much from it. I mean, like I agree with you. That first half was um the best they've looked probably with the exception of maybe the Kansas game, but that was like literally such a, different situation because it was even though it was competitive, it wasn't, a game that counted and both teams were literally just the first game out, so it's hard to know what to take from it. But um it was a little disappointed that played pretty bad the first 12 minutes of the second half, and then they basically kind of played um kind of even the last 8 minutes, but still had to fight. I mean, but again, with like, there's a version of this where in 10 games, Little Rock is, like you said, they got a bunch of seniors. They've got a bunch, some of their new players, and they have a good record. And that game is like makes sense because I mean that's how it kind of looked. Like the first, if you watch the first 10 minutes, you'd go, okay, this is like playing friggin' Bentonville Community College or something. Like these
Yeah.
guys just aren't. I mean, they're just getting the ball stolen from them. But then in the second half, it's like, to me, it looked like those guys are they were slightly inferior athletes, but still good ball players. And it just, I think the speed took them by not that it took them by surprise. I'm sure they expected
They
it, but there's a
they
different.
they they to adjust. Yeah, I mean they got
Yeah,
punched in the they got punched you
it
got punched in the mouth, and to their credit, they punched back.
it looked like, well, because one of the main ways, the two ways that we majorly grew that lead in the first half was one, shots were falling. Guys were, because like I said, I mean, they were getting, like I said, the ball was snapping, they were getting better in rhythm looks, and they were going down. And I swear to God, like I want to, we need to do, this is how we need to make views on YouTube. I need you to edit together like a bunch of shots where like all you show me is the approach, and I'll tell you whether they made the shot or not. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like you can tell when they're going to make the shot. Now, once in a while, they hit him right in the pocket and it's in perfect rhythm and they put it up and it looks good and it just doinks off the back of the rim. But like most of the time, you can like tell when like you're like that shot should go in. That's the one we were looking for. That's how it's supposed to look. That's the way the ball's supposed to be moved around, and that's the way you're supposed to catch it. Um, so the shots were going in, and we hit a high percentage three pointers, and I mean, it felt like we did anyway. I
Well,
actually
no,
didn't look at the
not a
stats,
high, not a high, 30% or so.
but they were falling a little better than they have been.
We hit 7 of them. I mean, the last 3 games, I've been fine with 3-point shooting. I'm not that worried about us being able to make threes. Really, I mean, I don't know if we have like a sniper. I think Jonell Davis will become that. I mean, I noticed he had like the old wrist wrap on and stuff. So I felt bad for him actually because he had two that just went down and then came back out. He had a layup that like went down again. He's just like, man, this guy's going through it right now. But um, I think he'll end up being that guy. But what you do see is that DJ Wagner can make threes. Boogie Flan can make threes, and Big Z can make threes. And I know John L. Davis can make threes, and you're like, well, that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think our three is going to be okay. And like I said, it's looking better. And the first half, well, I guess I'm saying the difference between the first half and then when they brought the lead back in that 12-minute period in the second half where we didn't play well, we weren't hitting threes and the
Mm-hmm.
shots, and it was partially that the ball was sticking. It was feeling more one-on-one. The shots weren't as good. And I mean, sometimes you make some and then you go on these runs where you don't. But the main thing was also the turnovers. In the first, I mean, the first three possessions they had were, or like three of the first four possessions they had were turnover, and not just turnover, they were live ball, fast break, layup turnovers, and it did look to me like they had to adjust to the speed. And I mean, like you can play a team that's better guys than you, and you can be surprised, like, oh well, those passing lanes just got a lot tighter. There's no such thing as a lazy pass. Every pass has to be thought out, deliberate, and you better make sure that your man isn't leaning towards you, and that you know what I mean. Like you just adjust to the speed of the other
Mm-hmm.
players, and they look like they did that. They got a little bit more physical, and between those two things, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you have your again, it's not ideal. I don't think there's anything to worry about in that game. I mean, I'd still like to maybe on a team like that, I'd like to see eventually us have a game where you reach the upper 80s a little more easily. You know what I mean? Um, but because I mean, I guess I'm just watching a lot of these other teams, and a lot of these games, like every other game, it seems like these teams are ending up in the 90s and stuff,
Yeah.
and we're ending up in the 60s. But
Hey, we got to 79, but we're like, and I think our defense still looks good without. I mean, that's without. I mean, everything changes too when you. I mean, we got an all SEC defensive player sitting on the bench that can't play. That's gonna help us a lot. But like our
well, this
perimeter,
game, dude, if you even had Brazil, this game would be different.
yeah,
I think if you have Brazil, if you have one more big man, one more sub, 5 more minutes on each guy that they
yeah,
can like kind of like move around some more pieces, I feel like you probably don't ever get that
yeah,
back to 7 points, and it stays at 20 the whole game.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you can, like I said, in a perfect world, you do exactly what you did in the first half and the second half, and you beat them by 34 points. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But that's also hard to do against anybody that has any pride. One, because I mean, you can sense it. Like when there's 18 minutes to go and you come back and it's like an 18-point game, and it's just like, oh man, we know we can beat you. Like all we have to do is try really hard. We're definitely better than you. I'm saying this is the way that feels to the guys
Yeah.
out there. It's like we've proven that if our best is going to beat whatever you can bring, but they won't just not play. It's like, we have to play this. I guess we do have to play it. And like, it's hard to maintain that much, especially when, like I said, you're not getting a lot of bench time. You're not getting a lot of rest. It's hard to maintain the level of,
Yeah.
aggression. And
Seven guys is not a lot of guys in a 40-minute game.
no,
It's not a lot of dudes, man. You're and like and look, I like Billy Richmond a lot. And I like Carter Knox too. But I think that like they're you don't have you don't have a big guy that you're bringing off the bench. So when you bring one of them in for a Big Z or Thiero, like you're not small because we're long, but you're smaller than you want to be, especially when you take Big Z out. And look, we're lucky. Listen, man, thank God for a Thiero because at least you can move him wherever. And like let me tell you who can't get hurt. Like,
I know, yeah, I know.
like okay, because you want to talk about the guy that's just doing everything. It's that guy. And but yeah, you're bringing these two other guys off the bench, and neither of them are. I mean, they're both guards. I mean,
Well,
they're both guard wing kind of players.
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I do think like you see flashes of this, and I think I'm right about the fact that, I mean, you've got like four guys out there that are kind of used to probably being the best player, on all their grade school and high school teams. And I mean, I'm sure this is a problem that's been Kentucky constantly had to deal with. These guys have to learn how to play off the ball a little
Mm,
bit more than they're probably used to. And I feel like these guys actually, I think it's a good problem to have as far as, I think sometimes where you end up with conflict is when you have all these, number one player type guys, and there you have big ego.
huge egos. Yeah,
These guys seem like they get along. I would actually say most of them are deferring too much. You know what I mean? Like they aren't. There's not like they're being greedy with their shots, and like they're very willing to pass. And sometimes I'm like, you guys need to. I feel like
I
with the
mean,
exception of,
the arrow had 23 points and took 9 shots.
well, I was going to say, with the exception of, I feel like we've seen what he's capable of. Like he can't play much better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's all you could want from him. Like as I mean, when he came in, it's like, well, he's lived up to the hype. He can't. I mean, if he plays better, I don't know what. Then we have LeBron James or something. Like it's, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like
Yeah.
if he starts to play better, then he's going to be like starting to get national attention from everyone because he
Yeah.
can't play a lot better.
Yeah, we do have 23 points, 8 rebounds, 6 steals, 2 blocks. I don't know what do you want from a guy, right? I mean, he's and not dude, and that doesn't even count. Like he had 5 steals, sorry, 6 steals, but was responsible for even more steals than that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how many deflections he had that like someone else ended up getting credit for the steal because they end up with the ball, but he's everywhere.
What? Plus, he just decided to run over that white dude in the lane, and I'm still not sure how that wasn't called. I mean, it looked. I wish they'd played it in slow motion back. It looked like the ball was kind of between the two of them, and the refs were like, "Well, I guess that's a loose ball," and they're both going for it. But he just trucked that dude and
Yeah.
just went down the court.
Or even at the end of the game, like the game, you're probably gonna win the game no matter what, but he's gonna go maximum effort, and just that guy thinks he's got an easy stick back, and he just comes in there and swats that thing.
I felt like when they had that kind of jump ball and that guy kind of he held on to the ball and the
Yeah,
guy
and,
kind of like, I
mm,
mean, and I don't think that was, yeah,
yeah,
that's just one of those, both guys, not going to
mm,
submit to the
mm.
other guy. And but I think that kind of lit a fire under him, and he had, I mean, from that point he had that block, that windmill, which I really did not expect that to be a windmill dunk. I thought maybe a dunk, but probably a layup. And then somehow, whenever someone makes the windmill dunk and they're like falling, I mean, dude, it hurts my shoulder. I'm like, how can that not dislocate your
Dude,
or
even
tear
the
your
even
rotator
the
cuff.
even that last oop that Boogie had to him, I'm like, I don't even, how do you even get that?
And that, although I that one I was like, I'm not so sure if you should be doing that at this point in the game. Like there was like a little over a minute that made it a 10-point game, so you're up by 8. I'm like, I feel like maybe you should. I mean, I guess that one I was like, all right, if it's a sure thing, you go ahead and take it. The next one, I was like, Coach, we don't. The two guys that we can absolutely not afford to get hurt right now is Thoreau and how are we saying his name, by the way?
Well, I guess everyone has said Thero. I guess technically he said it's Thoreau.
Thoreau,
Yeah, like for
like
like 3 years, everyone has said Thero, and then like I guess he's like it's. He finally just said something like when someone asked him, he's like it's Thoreau.
there's a writer named Thoreau, right? Who's the
I think so.
writer?
I believe there is. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah, Thoreau. I
So
guess we'll try.
Thoreau.
We'll
Okay.
try to keep it that way. But
Like
yeah,
like
so
free Thoreau.
I mean, dude, I'm starting to think that. I mean, and I know, like, I mean, this is probably not a shock, but like, um, you're probably not getting Boogie Flan next year. Like, he's probably
Mhm.
gone. But now throws on like all kinds of at the end of the first round draft boards too. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, that I mean, and he's been. I mean, his progression is. I mean, good for him, man. Like, I mean, he came in, averaged like 5 points a game as a freshman, then like 7 points a game as a sophomore, and he's a junior now, and he is apparently put in the work, dude, because like I mean, because everything that he does too is gonna train. Like you're looking at a guy that's I don't know, but
He's not making many this I mean, I'm not gonna say they're easy because there's a high level of athleticism involved, but most of his points, although he shoots a little bit, but I mean, like I said, he's not taking many shots. He's only taking them when they're like really in a good position. Most of his buckets are just point by the time he does all the work before he gets to the bucket, and
mhm.
then he just has to drop it in, you know?
Yeah, and he's living at the free throw. I mean, he shot 10 made. He's a good free throw shooter. I mean, 9 and 10 today. And there's the thing. Like when you get to the SEC, he's still going to be able to get to the free throw line. Like that. I think Thoreau is like a guy that you're looking at probably first, second, third. I don't know which one, but that's an all. You're probably looking at an all SEC guy.
Yeah,
Like in league play, he's gonna. I don't know what he's averaging. Like after this game, he's probably averaging 20 a game or something right now so far. Even if that diminishes, like he's gonna be a 15-7 guy.
well, and to finish my well, I never finished my thoughts. I have two open-ended thoughts. The one I was going to say is Boogie with 1 minute to go, up by 10, and 2 seconds into the shot clock, and there's a defender well in front of you in guarding position. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that. I'm just going to go ahead and say, let's pull that out rather than go in there, tuck your head, lower your shoulder, try to do a Euro step
Just
and
gets
just get
slammed to the floor.
slammed to the floor. I'm like, dude, I think 10 points and you got 35 seconds to burn. So at the best case scenario, they're going to get the ball back even if you just chuck it into the bleachers. Like they're going to get the ball back with 40 seconds and they got to
Yeah.
score 10 points. I don't think that's worth that risk.
By the way,
We're
Boogie
too
played.
thin.
Yeah, Boogie played good too. I mean, Boogie had 21 points in this game, but he also had 7 assists, which is great. I mean, like 21 and 7 is great, and he also took 11 shots. Like
Well, that's I mean, I don't feel like anybody's like Kobeing the ball. Nobody's like getting up freaking like I don't feel like anybody where I'm just going. Yeah, I mean, because the last few years we have had generally somebody like Battle
mhm.
who you need to score, but you have those games where they're not really going in, but he's still putting the ball up
He-
20 times. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I mean, yeah. So the thing I was saying before, the other loop that I didn't close was, it feels to me like Thoreau is maybe playing at his ceiling, and if it is, it's fine. I mean, if it goes up, then that's just a bonus. Boogie's playing as well as you could expect. Although I feel like there's probably more there. Like I think you're getting 85% of what he's capable of. I think he's got more in there, and like I mean, he can grow a little bit. I mean, but
Mhm.
still, just this level's good enough. But I feel like the other three guys, like they're, I feel like we're seeing like I think they got another 35%
Oh
in
yeah,
there.
oh
You know
yeah.
what I
Like
mean?
Billy Richmond's, he's gonna. I love the idea of Billy Richmond. Like that dude's gonna be here for a couple years. He was a high recruit and everything, but like he's
If
not
he
like
can
a
stop
one.
cramping.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But he's not a one and done guy. But great energy, super athletic, like good defender, good around the basket, good rebounder for a guard and stuff. Yeah, he's gonna get better. Like I mean, he's a really good athlete. He's gonna get better. He's gonna shoot better and that kind of stuff. And Knox, um, he hasn't really put it together yet. But like that's a McDonald's All American guy that like the shot's not, his shot didn't go in today, but he's a big dude, like a big long wing. Like you're gonna see him get better and better as well. And honestly, even some of the other guys like Big Z, I don't know what the ceiling is for him, but like he has lots of room to grow. And I already know what Janelle Davis's ceiling is, and I already know what he is, and he's better than what he's been. And when he gets 100%
And like I
comfortable,
said,
and
it's not that it's not that any of these guys are playing bad.
no, no,
I'm
not
not
at
saying
all.
that they're not playing bad. I just feel like they don't look as comfortable, and you can tell there's just like more in the tank.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like they can.
I think even DJ can be, and he's playing. I think he's great. Like I like the way DJ's playing. I mean, today he
Yeah,
had,
I'm concluding Wagner for sure. Wagner, like
he
he's
can be,
playing great, but he's also like he's playing great, and I forget that he's out there.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh yeah, like when he hits a three, and I'm like, oh yeah, forgot
Mhm.
he was out there.
Yeah, yeah, and like I always notice him on defense, like when he's up on guards and stuff. But yeah, like so, yeah, there's definitely nothing like in my mind that says I just don't know if this team can be any better than this. For sure they can, and that's without Brazil, who he's got a high ceiling, and then Adu, who we haven't even basically seen yet. But also I know what his ceiling is too. It's all SEC defender. That's what he is. Like
Mhm.
I already know that. I already know that. So, um, yeah. So lots of room for this team to be better than they are, and they look, they look really great at times. At times, it looks
Well,
really
we
good.
like I said, they look okay. They don't look maybe like it's like I said, it's not something that's yet blowing the doors off in a way where you're like, uh-oh, we're like maybe the one of the best teams in the country. You're still cautiously optimistic, but it's mostly just based on you can't make good judgments without knowing what the competition is. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because like everybody's just figuring out what they are. You know what I mean? Well, even on Thursday, like we know we're playing Illinois, and it's like it's like Illinois is a good program, but we don't know if they're good this year. You know what I mean? They've played one hard game and they lost, and it's like we even if we beat them, we won't necessarily know. Like you don't know until about 6 or 10 games into where not 6 or 10 good games where like good teams are underneath your belt,
yeah,
and it's hard. It's just hard to make a judgment before that because, like I said, maybe Little Rock's really good for what kind of team they are. So
yeah, yeah,
Baylor, I mean Baylor lost. Uh, that's not the kind of sign you're looking for. But man, I was not, and although not these things don't translate one to one, but in the silly, stupid, math of they beat them and then we beat them. So
yeah,
since we lost to Baylor, I want Baylor to beat everybody by 20. You know what
yeah,
I mean? But obviously, it doesn't actually work that way. But um, still, it makes you feel better if it does.
yeah, yeah. And you also just like don't know exactly what your team can be when you don't have all the pieces or some of the pieces are hurt. So it's hard to gauge like when you haven't seen it. Um, but I mean, what you could say is that like someone like Big Z, you're like that's a great piece like to have. You definitely want to play that guy. You don't want him to be your only option of like of a true post, like because he's not even a true post. By the way, but like man, he's a great rim protector. Like, um, I don't know that he's the guy you want down there all the time come SEC play, and he's playing like some real physical dudes. But I know this: don't try to drive in there and throw something up because he will swat that. He's
Well,
pretty,
not if you're not going to touch his body.
yeah,
I mean, you better be able to put your shoulder hang for another couple of seconds and then throw up a real awkward shot that has a lot of spin on it. Because yeah, I mean, if you just try to go up and get it over him, it's obviously a joke.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and one thing I say about Big Z too that I like, and sometimes you don't see it with guys that with his build. I like his willingness to get on the floor.
Hmm.
He'll dive on the floor.
I
Like I
know
like
those,
his willingness.
but whenever big guys like that fall, though, I'm always like,
Oh no, it
there's
freaks me out.
there's so many limbs. Their legs are so spindly and all over the place. I'm always
Yeah.
like, please get up.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But I do like his willing like poking at the ball, like that kind. I like that that he doesn't. Um,
Well, for that's one thing he does better than most guys that are his size is he actually can get his hands down by his ankles.
mhm,
You know what I mean? A lot of big guys, obviously, I mean, the whole thing's like, yeah, I'm that big guy. When you drive in there, bounce past that below his hands down to around him. And he gets his hands on a lot of balls when guys are trying to shovel it around him and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And he's got good mobility that way. That's one of the reasons like you don't see big guys really get on the ground very much because it's so hard for them to even bend down there. But he does have good mobility for a guy his height.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, but you would like to have him as another piece that you can not some you don't want to have to rely on him um to be like your only true big guy. Right? That's not what you want to do. Because there's a scenario where we've talked about this, but there's definitely a scenario where you put him on the floor alongside another guy, and he's a real problem because
Yeah.
he can stretch the defense.
I think that the one thing that we don't have that I think, when a dude comes out there, like what where
Yeah, Jonas to do. Yeah.
I think I might be wrong. I'd have to say watch him a little more, but Big Z and even Brazil, they don't have big enough hips
Mhm.
to set the kind of screen that you want, like the ideal screen. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
if they're really coming up and trying to set a screen and then like a drag it and roll hard, it feels like they are too gangly and they're not. I mean, it still works sometimes, but I want that Steven Adams screener. You know what I'm talking about? Like the
Yeah.
big hipped, big bodied guy that
Thero's big
really
enough.
puts a hurt.
Thero's big enough
But yeah,
to do it.
yeah, he's probably our best bodied screener for sure. He's very physical.
Well,
He's great
and
on.
also him rolling is real
Hmm.
dangerous
Hmm.
because he might roll and they might just throw it up near the rim somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, it is a little.
I mean that dude's as athletic as you can be, I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
it is different though. Like the thing I'm looking for the though is uh it's the thing that that a guy like Steven Adams or last I mean Mitchell was that same
mm,
kind of guy, a big body and then obviously Williams from the Thunder now, or wait,
yeah,
where's he playing?
yeah,
Is he still in the Thunder?
yeah,
Um that kind of guy who, because unlike Thoreau, who if when he sets a screen, he's going to be athletic and be able to jump to the rim. But I like those every once. I like the change of pace of the big guy that he's up there and you can throw it to him, but it doesn't have to be a home run dunk. You
yeah,
can throw it up, he can catch it, and he's got it so high he
yeah,
can like
yeah,
either try to make the layup, but if they cut him off, he can kind of pivot and get it out to the 3 point line. You know what I'm talking about? Like
yeah, yeah,
I feel like, I mean, I don't know if he's the kind of guy that can facilitate like that, but I feel like that would help our offense a little bit.
yeah,
Being able to once in a while go to the paint in both an threat to back someone down, but also the ability to, when the defense sinks, kick it out and just have offense moving in a little bit slower fashion. Because our offense right now is, and I mean, I don't want it to be that way all the time, but it's nice to have that change of pace where you could do the
yeah,
slow down, work the ball, and then an offense like that. Because right now ours is basically like it's kind of high speed. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like our offense
yeah,
is somebody really driving and either trying to make a really athletic shot by zigzagging their body all through the defenders, or I don't know. It would be Big Z is that we've done it with him a few times, and he does have that nice hook, and obviously there's no way to get to it, so it's not
Yeah.
like you're going to block it. It's just you can just tell it's like if I was the other team, I would hope that you do that for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. Or you feel like he could get bumped off that route or whatever on that roll. Here's the thing about Jonas. Like, I mean, I've watched some film and I remember and watching him last year. But so when you have a guy that's like an all league defender, um, it's hard. I would say most of the time, if you have a guy who's really good on defense, which Jonas is, those guys also know how to set screens. Like that, like those guys are usually very similar guys, right? So like I don't know a lot of guys that are great on defense that don't know how to that don't set good screens. Like that do, for whatever reason, the same thing that it takes to be a really good defender is like transfers pretty well over to knowing how to set screens. The other thing that it does is it just like they know where to be, because so much of defense is knowing where other guys want to be or where guys are going to try to be, right? And so like that translates over too. So I think with the other thing with Big Z is like there was that time where he kind of got caught like in the middle of some stuff, like and he was like not guarding anyone, but a guy got cut and whatever. It was, I mean, the announcer's like he's guarding a plank of wood or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff doesn't happen with Jonas. We gotten better. Like the first couple of games, I thought like our pick and roll defense like was not very good, and Z's gotten a little bit better about that. Like he's guarding that better. But like Jonas is great in pick and roll defense. Like I mean, if you watch his stuff, like that stuff never happens to him. So that's gonna help a lot. When
Yeah, and you can just tell Big Z just doesn't have an. I mean, you don't want him passing the ball, like especially not through defense or in
Mhm.
defense. Like most of the times when he gets double teamed or the double comes, he either has to make the very easiest pass, which is like the one that they're allowing you to kind of have right in front of you because they can get back to that guy, or if he tries to make a pass over to the corner over his shoulder or to a cutter. I mean, more often than not that I've seen it, the pass is just not on point. It's not, it's not maybe
Mhm.
not a turnover, but it's just not caught cleanly because it's low
Yeah,
or high or whatever. And I just don't think he's we don't have a big man that you can really go work it inside out and you feel comfortable that
yeah,
like what he's gonna be able to make the quick decision, go to the right spot when the double comes. And I mean that's not a knock on him. It's a particular skill. And like I said, I agree that he's just the kind of guy that he's has a unique set of skills and body, and it's going to be a real pain in the ass for certain personnel. And there's other personnel where he's going to struggle because they're going to,
yeah.
exploit his kind of his weaknesses or whatever. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
do like that he can make free throws. I mean,
yeah,
he shoots free throws well. So he's also not a guy that you can't foul him. Like that doesn't work, right? So I like that. And I think by and large, I mean, we shot over 81% from the foul line. We were 22 of 27. I like that we shot 27 free throws. I think that this team is a team that probably needs to get to the free throw line a lot, and I think they'll be able to. And we've shot them pretty good. Big Z was 3 of 4. Uh, Thero was 9 of 10. Boogie Flam was 6 of 7. Billy Richmond was 2 of 2. Carter Knox was 2 of 4. So I like that. And the other thing that's encouraging is that even though you know you're missing, you're the guy that's probably going to end up being your leading rebounder. He's not playing in a do, and then you have another guy that's in Brazil that is another big guy that should be able to rebound. We still didn't get out rebounded, and I know this team wasn't like a huge team or whatever, but we have a 6'7" guy, and you're like, well, that's the difference. But Big C only had 3 rebounds. But as a team, we still out rebounded them. And that's because, and obviously that's partially, Thero had 8, but everyone else chipped in, So Boogie Flan had 4 rebounds, DJ Wagner had 5 rebounds, Billy Richmond had, who didn't play a ton. I mean, he played, but I mean, he had 6 rebounds and I don't know how many minutes, but that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, overall, not a lot to say about the game. I mean, it's good. It's hard to analyze that game. Um, Probably we'll know a little bit more. I mean, have you heard anything about any reports on Brazil or Purdue and like what?
I just heard what they said, which was um, that they're both day to day, and I guess Brazil said that he would like to be out there the next game. So against Maryland East, whatever, whoever this team. This is the next game is a team is a team that you're. I mean, this doesn't mean they're bad, by the way, but it's one of those teams where you're like, huh, who?
Hmm.
Like like I've heard of Troy. I know who that is. Obviously I know who Little Rock is. But
Hmm.
even Pacific, we actually play basketball with a guy that went there to
Hmm.
play basketball, and so I know all those kind of teams, or Lipscomb, all that. But yeah, East, MD, I don't know what they are. Like this team is coming again. They might be awesome for all I know, but you got to get that game out of the way, and then you get Illinois, and like I don't know. Like my feeling is probably that you're going to get Brazil back at least for Illinois, especially if he said I'd like to play in the next game. He thinks he can or whatever. So certainly you'd think, okay, well, if you can do that, you can probably play against Illinois. Jonas, I don't know, man. Like I know that they say he's like close. Like he didn't look that close to me.
Yeah, he looks stiff.
He
But
just had like a limp. Dude. He looked like one of his legs was shorter than the other one. Like I'm like this guy, like he can't. He does. He looks like he's hurting, dude.
I
Like,
know it's scaring me too because, like, I mean, I don't really care about Illinois necessarily, but like, it would be nice to get him in there for a few games before conference starts, just because even if this team does start to click, now maybe he's the kind of dynamic because there are guys like this who just like they step in and there's no, I mean, they just
mm,
are the kind of piece that just grease on the wheels. But most of the time, people, you add another whole big piece that people aren't played with, and there's a little bit of an adjustment, especially when it's a style of player that you need but you haven't had,
yeah,
and you'd like to get a couple of games going. With like, I, I
yeah,
I don't need him coming back. Like, I don't need this to be a Nick Smith thing where
yeah.
we are 15 games in, still going, well, that game it was close, and you got to think if we had our center, we might. It's like I don't want that. I mean, because
Yeah.
we did that with Nick Smith a little bit. We're like, man, if they can just keep their head above water. I mean, Nick Smith supposedly be back here in a game or two, and it's like it just never
Well,
happened.
that was
It's
all.
like
That was also like you were really hoping too, because unlike Jonas, like Nick Smith was kind of an unknown commodity. Like you were just like,
he
I
could
think,
be Michael Jordan. We
yeah,
could have
you're just
Michael
like you're
Jordan
like
on
you
the
don't
bench.
know what we have on the bench, but it's supposed to be really good. Like at
Hmm.
least with Jonas, you're like, well, I mean, I know what it is, and I know it's good, but
Well, and then there's like the games. Like I said, it might take a game or two to really get back up to
mhm.
full game speed. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
That
mean,
kind of thing.
what's his
Because
conditioning going to be like? He's trying, like, I mean, it's not going to be 100%. That's for sure. So
yeah.
we'll see,
Well,
man.
it's 10. It's late. It's
it,
late.
it is like, do you got a player of the game?
Yeah, I think it's probably throw.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, dude. I mean, I Boogie is great. I think, and it's awesome that. Let me put it this way: if Boogie's the second best player on your team, that's good news. And through the first 5 games or so, I think Boogie's the second best player on this team, and that's great because the throws I mean, he's as good of a player as we've had in here in a long time. It looks like to me. We're like, that guy's a
Well, I
problem.
mean, at least the way he's playing now, like I said,
Yeah.
it's still early because, like I said, I mean, it does remind me a lot of Council. Not, I mean, Council makes his shots in a slightly different way, but they have a similar
Hmm.
style of like just athletic, get some steals, look out if they're on their own out in
Mm.
the open court. Now, like I said, Council pulled up and hit more jump shots, but if you remember, Council was averaging like he was averaging like 23 points a game for the
Yeah.
first 4 games or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was amazing. I mean, I think he was
Yeah.
the leading scorer in the SEC for one game, or I mean, like in the like after game 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But he came back down to earth and ended up, more like a 15 to 16 point player.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying Thoreau's going to do that. I'm just saying you never know,
Yeah.
I think he can maintain it because he doesn't need to dominate the ball in any way to get those points.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, those points just like come out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
And he's a little bit the council comparison's good, but he's a little bigger than council. Like I think they're probably similar height. He might be taller. Like I mean, I think that's the thing that's crazy about him. The LeBron James thing. I know don't people don't freak out here, but young LeBron James, like when he first like got on like the Cavs and stuff, I'm not like that's what he was built like. Throws like 6'8" and like but moves like he's 6'4",
mhm.
but he's also broad shouldered, big, just a big dude. You know, like that guy's a nightmare. Like a guy that's that explosive, that fast, that tall, that strong. Like you're like, I don't. That's a hard thing to deal with. I don't care who you are. Like that. Like that's tough.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and like I said, the main difference, you don't even think of him as being like LeBron James, is like the fact that, I mean, and they obviously are different, but is he doesn't ever have the ball in his hands.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like he's doing this off almost completely off the ball.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas Bond was like basically the point guard of all his
Did you say
teams, more
James
or
Bond? You
less.
say James
James
Bond?
Bond,
That's
LeBron James,
James Bond. It is late. Uh,
James
yeah.
LeBron.
No,
Yeah.
but like, when he does, I mean, he does score off the dribble a lot, but like,
By the way, how has he never done a marketing campaign where he says Braun, James Braun?
that's, I don't, his, those are, is that the order? The order's not right. I don't
It's not, but now
know.
that I think about it, it seems close enough to make something work.
Yeah, maybe. Uh, if he watches this, then if that happens in the next 6 months, you'll know that we have like a,
All I'll know is that Google's listening, and it's not just listening and then recommending me the things that I talk about. It's
it's
also
selling your stuff to ad
listening
agencies.
and sending my what I'm saying to the other people I'm talking about. That really did what we I think it was I was talking about something the other night, and it was one of like once in a while, there's one of those things where it's like there's no possible explanation other than it's listening to you because you haven't searched for this. It's not an interest of yours. You know what I mean? It's like catfish roulette or something, like some words you've never said in this sentence before, and then a video pops up with those words in it, and you're like, I mean, that's happened to me a couple of times. It happened to me the other night. I can't remember what it was, but it was something to do with like an old basketball player that I hadn't thought or heard about in forever, and I mentioned his name like 3 times, and then an hour later, I pulled up like there was a highlight clip of his basketball
Yeah,
career or whatever.
it
Like,
gets super freaky when you're not talking to anyone because you're by yourself and you're thinking about something. You're like thinking about like a product or something. Like, man, I need to like whatever. And then like then it pops up and you're like, which of course that's got to be coincidence, but it is freaky because you're like, okay, like
yeah,
I
there's certainly an element of whenever you buy a car and then you see that car everywhere, it's
yeah,
just a matter of there's definitely pointed attention where you notice things, and sometimes like you notice things that if you speak about them, then you will notice them. But like I said, there's also been times. There was one time where I was at a bar with a friend, and they made some. you could try a flight of beers. It was locally brewed stuff, and we tried them, and the one that we liked the best because they were taking surveys or whatever, and was the one. It was called the Dude Abides, and me and I think it was Jamie was there, and we were just like, oh, I was like, oh, I think we like the Dude Abides. We probably said the Dude Abides like 3 times. Literally opened up my phone and like there was a video on YouTube, and it's just a clip, and the name of the clip is the Dude Abides, and it's just that scene from The Big Lebowski. Now, The Big Lebowski, it's not impossible for that to like pop up into your timeline stuff, but like the clip was called The Dude Abides, and it was like
Yeah.
literally in the same 10-minute period. And I mean, it's like I haven't said The Dude Abides, like I don't talk, it's not like I talk about The Big Lebowski all the time or something, like, you know what I mean? It's like, I, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a coincidence, but seems like it's one of those things like, hey, maybe Lee Harvey Oswald was just angry about something and was acting alone. But at some point, you're like, the easiest explanation actually is that they're just listening to you and offering stuff. Of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
like that's actually a more reasonable explanation than all the coincidences all the time.
All I know is that everyone just has stopped listening now.
Again, yep, we forget that we're on a podcast.
That's right. All right, man. Well, we'll be back after the next game, and then Thanksgiving, dude. We get basketball on Thanksgiving, which is great.
I guess we have the pod on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, dude. Eat a bunch. We would just be sitting here fat and podding. It'd be great. So,
All
all right,
right. I
man.
mean, I guess people, I mean, depending on how the game goes, people might want to want something to watch
Yeah,
on
dude.
Friday morning.
Yeah, or just even Thanksgiving night, dude. What are you doing? Nothing. Just sitting around. You got no plans. So,
Hmm.
all right, man. All
All
right.
right.
Well, I'll see you
See you
later
guys.
on. Bye.